Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Here's a look at tonight's top stories. A gangland clash in Central injures 3 people, one of whom is in coma after being shot. New COVID cases in Hong Kong remain above 600 for the second straight day. And a U.S. congressional panel implicates Donald Trump in an attempted coup. 3 people were injured and at least 2 shots fired in Central early this morning in a dispute between triads over the distribution of money for illegal activities. 4 suspected gang members were arrested, and a search is underway for at least 4 more. Isaac Lee reports.
It may look like a scene from a film, but this actually happened on Wyndham Street at around 2 a.m. Dashcam video showed some men rushing out of a vehicle and hitting a car with their machetes. A van rammed into one of the attackers as it sped off. Then at least 2 shots were fired from the car, hitting one person in the stomach and sending everyone fleeing. Armed officers rushed to the scene after receiving calls from passers-by. They arrested 4 men, including one who suffered from minor leg injuries after being hit by the van. 2 others, the man who was shot and another with a head injury, were both in a coma when they were sent to Queen Mary Hospital. Officers found 2 bullet casings and 9 knives. But the gun is missing, and officers pledged to try and recover what they believe is a semi-automatic pistol.
I don't think a single isolated incident such as this one should cause a great alarm for the general public. But having said that, the police is very, very concerned about such cases with real firearm being used and someone being hurt, especially in a crowded area like Central.
Senior Superintendent Ho believed that the attack arose from a dispute between 2 triad groups over the distribution of proceeds from gambling and drug sales. The car from which the shots were fired was later found burned in Campton. Isaac Lee, HKIBC.
The government has stripped 3 opposition figures of honors awarded to them. One is former law professor Benny Tai, who received the Medal of Honor in 2001 for promoting the Basic Law. He is currently remanded in custody over a national security case. Former Democratic Party lawmakers Yuen and Sin Chung Kai lost their Silver Bohemia stars and are also no longer justices of the peace. They were convicted of participating in an unauthorized assembly 3 years ago. Yuen was released after being given a 14-month jail term, while Sin received a suspended sentence. Online news outlet FactWire has ceased operations, citing the changing atmosphere in the industry. The network specialized in investigative journalism and won several industry awards for its reports during the anti-government protests. It was started by news veteran Ng Hiu Tong through crowdfunding in 2015. The non-profit-making outlet thanked members of the public for their support. FactWire is the 3rd online news outlet to fold in the past 7 months after Stand News and Citizen News. 3 people have been arrested on suspicion of reporting fake positive test results. This follows a surge in the number of false reports to the Health Department's test declaration website. Macy Mock has the details.
3 people were arrested yesterday for submitting false or misleading information to the Department of Health's Rapid Antigen Test Declaration website in March and April. They are believed to have done so to obtain a quarantine order or a recovery record QR code to fulfill the vaccine pass requirements. They were exposed when asked to take a PCR test to verify their results. A 24-year-old man who works in the property sector allegedly uploaded online screenshots to the declaration platform. A 38-year-old ambulance man is suspected to have done the same thing or used old photos in a bid to prove he was positive. He was suspected of fraud, an offense that carries a 14-year jail sentence if convicted. His girlfriend was also arrested. The 35-year-old barista is accused of putting the public at risk to infection by failing to inform health authorities that she was previously infected or carried COVID symptoms. She was accused of misleading them by reporting a fake positive rapid antigen test result, but a later test showed she was negative. The three have been released on bail. Chief Inspector Yuen from the Technology Crime Division said there's been a sharp increase in the number of false positive COVID cases reported to the declaration platform. He slammed people who submitted false information as selfish and irresponsible. Offenders face a maximum fine of $10,000 and 6 months in jail. Since March, 6 people have been arrested on suspicion of providing false information to health authorities. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
For the second day in a row, Hong Kong reported more than 600 new COVID infections. There were 672 cases, including 59 imported ones. 11 people are suspected to have contracted the Omicron subvariant BA.2.12.1. Another 2 schools will suspend 1 class each. They are the Chun King branch of Joyful World Kindergarten, which had 4 infections, while 2 students and 1 teacher of Bradbury School in Wan Chai tested positive. Beijing today reported 21 new COVID infections, including 6 from a growing bar cluster. This came as health officials identified 1 person who visited several bars and infected at least 29 people since Monday. About 4,400 people were classified as close contacts in the bar cluster. Entertainment and internet venues in Chaoyang district were ordered closed in a bid to contain the spread of the virus. In Shanghai, residents of 9 districts have to undergo PCR tests this weekend after 11 new infections were detected. Some areas will be sealed off again just 10 days after a 2-month shutdown ended. The mainland yesterday registered 73 infections, a drop of almost half from Wednesday. Overseas, a U.S. House committee says former President Donald Trump was at the center of a conspiracy to launch a coup in January last year in a bid to remain in office. The remark came as the committee investigating the Capitol insurrection kicked off a series of public hearings with dramatic testimony from rioters and graphic footage never seen before. Raymond Young reports.
Whether it was filmed by body camera recorders on police officers or the rioters themselves as they breached the Capitol. The never-before-seen footage jolted the painful memories that many Americans had tried to move on from. The material was shown at a congressional hearing aired on primetime national TV. After a year-long investigation, a 9-member select committee believed they had found who was behind the riot that caused at least 8 deaths.
Donald Trump was at the center of this conspiracy. January 6th was the culmination of an attempted coup, a brazen attempt, as one rioter put it shortly after January 6th, to overthrow the government. The violence was no accident.
Participants seem to back up that view.
What really made me want to come was the fact that, I had supported Trump all that time. I did believe, that the election was being stolen. And Trump asked us to come.
He said, I have something very important to say on January 6th or something like that, is what got me interested to be there.
Testimonies from Trump's inner circle suggested the former president was increasingly alienated as he repeatedly made claims of election fraud.
I made it clear I did not agree with the idea of saying the election was stolen and putting out this stuff, which I told the president was bullshit. And, I didn't want to be a part of it.
Even Trump's daughter, Ivanka, made an appearance siding with Barr's views. While the committee cannot bring legal charges against Trump, it will continue its mission in 5 more hearings to uncover the full scope of his failed attempt to stop the transfer of power to his successor, Joe Biden. Raymond Yang, HKIBC.
Britain and Ukraine have hit out after 2 British men and a Moroccan were sentenced to death by a court in the pro-Russian Donetsk People's Republic. The men were captured while fighting for Ukraine.
I was hoping the sentence would be a lot fairer, judging the circumstances in which I helped the investigation, and also because I surrendered to the Donetsk People's Republic. I wish it could be different, but God will be the one that would judge me when the time comes.
Aslan, fellow Briton Sean Pinner, and Soudan Brahim from Morocco were accused of being mercenaries, but their families claim that they have served the Ukrainian army for a long time. London and Kyiv said the sentences violated international laws protecting prisoners of war. Mainland policymakers are likely to offer further incentives to boost the economy as inflation appears to cool down. Consumer prices last month rose by 2.1% from a year ago, the same percentage increase as in April. The producer price index climbed 6.4%, but the pace was the slowest in 14 months. The statistics may prompt the People's Bank of China to roll out more stimulus measures at a time when other central banks are raising interest rates to tame spiraling inflation. Many people in Britain are struggling to make ends meet as inflation jumped to a 4-decade high of 9%. The war in Ukraine sent petrol prices surging, leaving low-wage earners with a stark choice: food or fuel.
It really is becoming untenable, particularly for those on low incomes. We've already found from our research that 2% of those in low incomes are actually having to get rid of their car. 27% are actually cutting back on food shopping because they need the car, because they live in rural areas or they work night shifts. And there's really no alternative. They still have to pay for fuel.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson is under pressure to do more to help low-income households. His government has cut the fuel tax by the equivalent of 50 Hong Kong cents per litre, but critics say it's too tiny to provide any relief. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index was down 62 points. Top 10 active stocks. Meituan was down 60 cents. Tencent was up $1.60. Kuaishou was down 85 cents, and Tracker Fund was down 4 cents. Forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar. Euro is at 8.30, British pound at 9.76, and the Australian dollar at 5.59. The London FTSE is currently down 89 points. Hong Kong's first ever electric double-decker will start taking passengers later this month, but capacity is reduced because of 2 giant battery packs. Kelly Pang reports.
After months of testing, Hong Kong's first all-electric double-decker will finally hit the road next Sunday. Citybus number 5B will run between Causeway Bay and Kennedy Town, covering 30 km per trip. The bus will have to undergo a 90-minute recharge for every 3 round trips it completes. Charging facilities are available at the depot, as well as the Kai Tak Cruise Terminal, Central Ferry Pier, and Hong Kong Station. Passengers may be surprised by the silence, as engine noise will be a thing of the past. But Citybus says the biggest advantage is zero roadside emissions.
So from a pedestrian perspective, there's less air pollution and heating. So I think for the pedestrians themselves, the journey around Hong Kong would be more comfortable as well.
Unlike traditional double-deckers where the fuel tanks are placed underneath the floor, the electric bus is powered by 2 giant battery packs at the back. Citybus hopes to phase out all diesel-powered buses by 2045. Kelly Pang, HKIBC.
Onto the weather now. Brace yourself for a bleak Saturday with clouds, showers, and thunderstorms. Temperatures will range between 25 and 29 degrees. A slight improvement is expected in the following days. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Friday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Cheryl Yuen. Good night.